sir.
Okay. So are the students in attendance now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So
They can hear you. Yes.
okay. So can we just take a few minutes to close our eyes and chant Om for 3 times? That will help us to go inwards and improve our process of concentration.
Okay,
Let's,
sir.
let's all close our eyes. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. And with the next breath, we are all going to chant Om.
Off कर दूं.
Open your eyes now. How are you feeling?
Better, sir.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I consider this as a unique opportunity and a proud privilege to address this August gathering of faculty and the students of the Gitaram International School of Business on a subject called creativity. And this is a subject which is of a prime importance and relevant to every aspect of professional and personal life. Out of the box thinking or going beyond the boundaries of the box is only possible when you develop a creative instinct. The subject of creativity becomes even more relevant when, as students, you are on the verge of passing out of a business school in a few months. Because every organization that you go is going to look upon you to solve varied problems which require a great deal of thinking and creativity. When you are a student with an institution, you are under the guidance of faculty members, teachers, lecturers, and professors who spend a lot of time with you to equip you with the skills that are necessary for you to face the professional world and mold you into personality who will take responsibility and perform to the best of his or her ability. It is a very challenging for the faculty to train and equip students like you because you all come from different backgrounds and spend 2 years or 3 years in an institution like this, and you make this institution your home for this time. As students, you accepted the challenge to come and study in this wonderful business school so that you are fully groomed and are prepared to work in organizations that are actually eagerly waiting to absorb you because of your capabilities that you have acquired, the skills that you have gained, and your creative edge. The year 2020 has been a very difficult year for the entire globe, which is facing the coronavirus crisis. Everybody is facing this. So, institution like yours had to withdraw the classroom facility for 1 year because government guidelines did not allow you to come out of your house. Following government guidelines, institutions embarked on a new approach of online teaching, and you suddenly had to adapt to this mode of learning. I'm sure that most of you have familiarized yourself with information and communication technology. And this is very important because apart from learning management, you have also mastered the art of using computers, ICT, which you will find when you walk into the professional world that every institution today needs people who have this expertise with them. So, learning with the application of computers, becoming experts in addition to acquiring the knowledge of management for which you came to this institute has been a very, very learning and asset for you. Every situation brings with it certain opportunities, and COVID 19, the coronavirus pandemic, has also brought these opportunities. And we should never hesitate to make use of opportunities and accept these opportunities as challenges to further our goals and interests. Ladies and gentlemen, as Swati would have told you, I passed out of BITS Pilani way back in 1976. And this is a very interesting journey because if we go back to the 50s, when Ghansham Das Birla, late Ghansham Das Birla, the village where he was born in Pilani, he started schools and he started colleges. He called these colleges the Birla Arts College, Birla Science College, and Birla College of Engineering. These colleges were functioning from 1956 onwards. But in 1964, effort was made to combine these colleges into one institute, which was called the Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani. In 1964, the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, was approached by BITS to suggest the restructuring of the institution. And it came up with the CGPA structure. Today, every institution follows the cumulative grade point average. In BITS Pilani, we started the CGPA system way back in 1965. And it was on a 10-point scale. Today, many institutions, some have it on 3-point scale, some have it on 4-point or 5-point. Ours was a 10-point scale, and it was easy because you might just multiply by 10 and you get the percentage by which you pass out. But first division was on a CGPA of 7. So when I went to BITS, my admission was in 1971, 5 years or 6 years after they had actually started implementing the CGPA system. And this was an innovation at that time because even the IITs, a little later, they started implementing the CGPA and the semester system. So when I got admission there, BITS also innovated on another program which they call the practice school program. This was another innovation because students, that time it was 11 years of higher secondary followed by 5 years of engineering, or in BITS it was the 5 years integrated program where you get a master's degree in science, and they even started the MMS program, which was Master in Management Studies. So in 5 years, without going through the process of graduation, you came out with a master's program either in management or in science or a bachelor's program in engineering. So 5 years when you spent there, at the end of the third year, you had to go for a practice school program to a designated institution. And the dean at that time was Dr. V.V. Mandke, who pioneered later on. He also got associated with the Indira Gandhi National Open University to start the distance learning program. Very, very uh, uh, ambitious man, very pioneering in his approach, and it was under him that the practice school program was started. The practice school program also gave the industry and professional organization linkage. The institute, the industry, and professional institutes became to be linked, because when we went after the summer, the third year, the first summer vacation, 7 weeks, we were in a professional environment. And this professional environment, we went to, in my case, I went to the National Institute of Oceanography in Goa, which is one of the CSIR institute, and that's how I became associated with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. When and how do we take the uncharted path? I told Dr. Manke, if you permit me to go to Goa, only then will I go for the practice school program. There is no other institution that I would go. And this became a incident in BITS Pilani, because Dr. Manke used to quote that Professor Huria is not professor that time. Huria says that I will go to Goa only, I will go to the practice school only if I am allowed to go to the National Institute of Oceanography. So, you can tell the institution what you want. Oceanography was a new subject for me. I knew nothing about it. When I went there, I spent about 50 days in the practice school program and learned what that institution is doing. The first practice school was only meant to be an eye opener into the activities of the institute, because you can't take up a big project, but a small project like like this for that you do for the summer school, it helps you to gain an understanding of what the institute is doing. And you have to give seminars, you have to be uh, in touch with the faculty there, because a person from that institute is assigned to you, under whose guidance you do your summer project. So after 7 weeks, when we came back, it was the fourth year, and then fifth year passed, and at the end, in the final semester, there was the practice school 2 program, and again I preferred to go to National Institute of Oceanography. Knowing the place, I went there, and this time I took a project in the instrumentation division. So, what does this tell us? The important thing is that we should accept challenges. We should take opportunities that come in our way and learn from that. I was a student of the MSc Honors Chemistry program. Oceanography was a new subject for me, but I wanted to learn about oceanography. And the whole uh, three sides of India is covered by oceans. So, what do we do with these oceans? This Institute of Oceanography was studying the physical uh, um, characteristics, the chemistry, the biological, marine biology, and all the subjects which are associated with oceanography were all being studied at the National Institute of Oceanography. At that time, Dr. Qasim, he was the director. He became very close to Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. And after Indira Gandhi actually wanted to start the Department of Ocean Development. And because the expertise was there with him, he made Dr. S.Z. Qasim the Secretary for Ocean Development in India. So this is how the development of the country takes place. This is how institutions in the CSIR, the whole purpose of the three institutes which came under the CSIR was to develop the country with industrial background, and to develop it in strategic directions so that India will become self-sufficient in its resources. Self-sufficiency was the catchword at that time. Today, things are different. Having recognized the benefits of this approach, much later I became the member of the board of studies of some institutes. I implemented the practice school program in various institutions where I was the member of the board. I also was called upon by some of the institutions to develop the curriculum. And later on, when I joined the CFTRI, I became almost fully knowledgeable in the area of food science and technology so that I could contribute to curriculum development in the area of food science and technology. And I did this for some of the universities and institute, including the A.D. Patel Institute of Technology at Vallabh Vidyanagar in Gujarat, and the Shri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, which is in Puttaparthi. I don't know whether all of you, I'm sure, must have heard about Bhagwan Satya Sai Baba. And it was a wonderful opportunity that I got to develop the curriculum for food science and technology course, postgraduate program, which they started in the year 2006. And since then, they are running the course. I also became a visiting faculty member to train the teachers in the subject so that they could carry on with the course. So, ladies and gentlemen, I had various opportunities, and with these opportunities, I tried to make a difference to the institutions where I was called upon to help. My story of BITS Pilani did not end in 1976 when I passed out of the MSc Honours program. In fact, the story only began at that time because my grades in the master's program, MSc Honours Chemistry, was not excellent. So I decided I need to improve upon them because the professional world today looks for excellence. Today, when you apply to BITS Pilani, you must have a percentile of 98.4 or 98.6 to get admission in that institute. And here I was, being almost asked that come back to BITS Pilani this time for a higher degree, and we will see that you are better trained this time in the subject that you want to. So in 1976, BITS Pilani started a program called MSc Tech in Science and Technology Development. It was started with the initiative of Professor A. Rahman, who was the chief of the planning division of the CSIR. And he also became a visiting faculty at BITS Pilani. So this program of MSc Tech in Science and Technology Development focused on science policy and management of research and development. Till that time, MBA degrees were there, but nobody had looked at the subject of managing research and development. And with CSIR having grown with 40 universities, in which direction the research was going, how should we evaluate? Why should we fund research in the respective strategic areas? So this was the main subject for which this program was started. So 2 years program in BITS Pilani. I passed out in 1978. BITS Pilani is another innovative institutes where they allow you to take courses, elective courses, according to your choice. So I did economics, sociology, psychology, and all history of science and technology. These courses, a scientist would never aim at doing. But what it did to me, it broadened my entire horizon of thinking. So today, when I go to the professional world with such a but with such a wide background, I know that what is the difference that I can make to organizations. When I passed out of my second practice school in the MSc Tech program was with the Regional Research Laboratory Jammu, which is now called the Indian Institute of Integrative Medicine. It is in Jammu. So I did this 6 months project there, and it was a study of the growth pattern of R&D institutions in the biological group of CSIR. Now, for this, I had to go to the CSIR headquarters. I had to go to Professor Rahman because he was the chief of the planning and he was having all the data with respect to all the laboratories of the CSIR. In those days, there was no Google in 1978. So you had to work hard. You had to go look at, all the files and registered, collect data, and then, it took me 2 months to compile all that information together, go back to RRL Jammu, do the analysis of the data, and do the study, and then complete my practice school program. From 1978 to 1982, I worked as a research associate with the Central Food Technological Research Institute. And Professor Rahman had also worked there in the CFTRI. And one day he just came over and he says, Huria, what are you doing here? You have spent enough time. Come over now to my institute, which I have started. It was called the National Institute for Science, Technology, and Development Studies. So he pulled me there. He said, I'll offer you a research associateship. So from 1982 to 1983, for 15 months, I was working with Professor Rahman at the National Institute of Science, Technology, and Development Studies in Pusa in New Delhi. I was not very happy staying in Delhi. So I decided that I am going to find another job. Not that this institute was not good, but personally, I felt that Delhi was not a place where I could spend my lifetime working there in an institute. So I applied to the National Dairy Development Board in Anand, went there. It was a small place, and I spent 9 years in NDDB Anand. And then later on, when I was posted to Delhi for 5.5 years, I continued to work with the National Dairy Development Board. And in 1997, I decided to go back to the Central Food Technological Research Institute. So in brief, this has been my journey as far as development of my professional career is concerned. You can make out that when you charter a path which is different, which is, it is, you are bound to find obstacles. You have to make a way for yourself. Today MBA is a very well defined degree, BBA is a very well defined degree, but MSc Tech in Science and Technology Development had only 3 students at that time in BITS Pilani. Nobody wanted to join that course. And here I was, charting a career for myself, a path for myself. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I will start my presentation on creativity because am I audible?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So the PowerPoint presentation that I have for you is thinking out of the box, igniting creativity. I've taken the liberty of slightly modifying this to say, because when I use the word igniting, I am saying that this is something which should become a rage in you, a fire in you. As Dr. Kalam said, when I say Dr. Kalam, I'm referring to the ex-president of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who said that dreams are not those which you see while asleep. Dreams are those which don't let you sleep. So when we ignite creativity to a level, we don't sleep. We keep our creativity live and work on it. Creativity, what is it? Is it the ability of a person to create, perform, or think something in a way that has not been done before? What is creativity? We need to use imagination. Imagination. Now, when we started the presentation, I told you to close your eyes. Can you just do this again for me? Can you all close your eyes? I can't see you, so you'll have to respond. Swati? Swati?
Yes, sir.
Are the students closing their eyes now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now open your eyes. What difference does it make when you are sitting with your eyes open? What you see in front of you is the world. When you see with your eyes closed, the world becomes infinite for you. That is the power of imagination. When you look inwardly, your imagination is ignited. And that's the time when you can generate new ideas. Creative persons look at things from a different perspective, from a unique perspective, which others have perhaps not thought about. You can find patterns or make connections with opportunities. You can look at various way of doing things, but the idea is that you always begin to think differently. Creativity is mapping out 1,000 different routes to reach one destination. The destination is the same, but any number of routes you can make. You can have the most shortest route, you can have the most economical route, you can take the longest route, you can take a mountainous route, depending on your interest, but you reach the same destination. So, thinking out of the box, what does it imply? It implies that we are thinking differently, we are thinking unconventionally, and we are thinking with a new perspective. Now, let us look at the application of creativity. Where do we apply our instinct of creativity? Creativity applies to any product or service. It applies to design of tangible or intangible products, buildings, interiors, books, toys, just about anything. Arts, fine arts, painting, sculpture, performing arts, music, movies, poetry, music, songs, lyrics, anything. Now, look at the COVID-19 scenario. What has it done to us? Within 1 year, you find that so many creative ideas have come up. Do you know that during this period, in the last few months, roughly 140 papers are being published on COVID and various developments that are taking place? The vaccine that was developed, it came in a record time of 8 to 9 months. It takes almost 8 to 9 years for a vaccine to be developed and tested. But look, under this emergency situation for which the permission has been given to use the vaccine, so much of work, so much of inputs, so much of creativity has gone in. Masks, new type of masks have come, hand sanitizer, the way you walk into any place and you find different kinds of hand sanitizer, soaps, dispensers. Travel industry, the hospitality industry, you see, it bears a completely different look today. People are now looking at, because COVID can pass through air, the infection gets transmitted through the air. How do we work on the airflow systems so that the person sitting next to your seat in aeroplanes doesn't get affected in closed spaces? So creativity is important in any management situation. It is important for training in soft skills, hard skills, anywhere, anytime, any place, anything. So that is the power of creativity, which we are going to look at. Scientists, why are they called scientists? Because they always have a creative edge. I have just put the names of 4 scientists here. Archimedes, who lived from 287 to 212 BC. I hope you understand what does BC means. It means before Christ was born. And that date, because it is historical, it goes backwards. So 287 to 212 BC, Archimedes lived. Isaac Newton, we all know that he was the one who invented the laws of gravity. It's not that the apple did not fall before Isaac Newton noticed it falling. It was always there. But it was when the apple fell and he saw, he said, there is something which needs to be investigated. There is something which needs to be studied. There is something which needs to be learned. And he applied his creativity to come up with the laws of gravity. Thomas Alva Edison came up with 1093 patents. He lived for 84 years. So you all know that the gramophone, the phonograph, the bulb, the incandescent bulb, the first movie projector, the kinetoscope, and the carbon microscope were all invented by Thomas Edison. And who has not heard the name of Einstein? 1879 to 1955, he lived for 76 years. Now, can you see one more thing about these scientists? They all lived for above 70 years, 76, 75, 84 years. There are some scientists who have lived even longer. So what happens when you are applying the creative process? The mind through which you apply the process is active. And when the mind is active, you tend to be more productive. And when you are more productive, your lifespan increases. So when you work hard and you are productive, it is going to help you for a longer life. We talked about Archimedes. 2,200 years ago, he said, give me a place to stand and I can move the world. We can all move the world. You just need a small effort to do it. A big achievement just needs a small effort. So what actually Archimedes meant was, give me a place to stand. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the earth. I want to show you a. Swati, is it okay? Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When you think of Archimedes' eureka moment, you probably think of this. As it turns out, it may have been more like this. In the 3rd century BC, Hieron, king of the Sicilian city of Syracuse, chose Archimedes to supervise an engineering project of unprecedented scale. Hieron commissioned a sailing vessel 50 times bigger than a standard ancient warship. Named the Syracusia after his city, Hieron wanted to construct the largest ship ever, which was destined to be given as a present for Egypt's ruler, Ptolemy. But could a boat the size of a palace possibly float? In Archimedes' day, no one had attempted anything like this. It was like asking, can a mountain fly? King Hieron had a lot riding on that question. Hundreds of workmen were to labor for years on constructing the Syracusia out of beams of pine and fir from Mount Etna, ropes from hemp grown in Spain, and pitch from France. The top deck, on which 8 watchtowers were to stand, was to be supported not by columns, but by vast wooden images of Atlas, holding the world on his shoulders. On the ship's bow, a massive catapult would be able to fire 180-pound stone missiles. For the enjoyment of its passengers, the ship was to feature a flower-lined promenade, a sheltered swimming pool, and bathhouse with heated water, a library filled with books and statues, a temple to the goddess Aphrodite, and a gymnasium. And just to make things more difficult for Archimedes, Hieron intended to pack the vessel full of cargo. 400 tons of grain, 10,000 jars of pickled fish, 74 tons of drinking water, and 600 tons of wool. It would have carried well over 1,000 people on board, including 600 soldiers. And it housed 20 horses in separate stalls. To build something of this scale only for that to sink on its maiden voyage, well, let's just say that failure wouldn't have been a pleasant option for Archimedes. So he took on the problem. Will it sink? Perhaps he was sitting in the bathhouse one day, wondering how a heavy bathtub can float, when inspiration came to him. An object partially immersed in a fluid is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. In other words, if a 2,000-ton Syracusia displaced exactly 2,000 tons of water, it would just barely float. If it displaced 4,000 tons of water, it would float with no problem. Of course, if it only displaced 1,000 tons of water, well, Hieron wouldn't be too happy. This is the law of buoyancy, and engineers still call it Archimedes Principle. It explains why a steel supertanker can float as easily as a wooden rowboat or a bathtub. If the weight of water displaced by the vessel below the keel is equivalent to the vessel's weight, whatever is above the keel will remain afloat above the waterline. This sounds a lot like another story involving Archimedes and a bathtub, and it's possible that's because they're actually the same story, twisted by the vagaries of history. The classical story of Archimedes' Eureka and subsequent streak through the streets centers around a crown, or corona in Latin. At the core of the Syracusia story is a keel, or corone in Greek. Could one have been mixed up for the other? We may never know. On the day the Syracusia arrived in Egypt on its first and only voyage, we can only imagine how residents of Alexandria thronged the harbor to marvel at the arrival of this majestic floating castle. This extraordinary vessel was the Titanic of the ancient world, except without the sinking, thanks to our pal Archimedes.
So, Did you hear the word corona mentioned there? Corona
Yes, sir.
actually means a crown, and this is what Archimedes was dealing with. The word eureka, as the story says, that he came out of the bathtub, he had put the crown there, and with the quantum of the displacement of water, he could find out, that the crown it was a gold crown, jeweled with diamonds, and it did not want to break the crown, so he put it in the tub, immersed it, and then he could define the volume and the density to find out the purity of the gold with which the corona was made. So this is how Archimedes dealt with the. So it requires every place you require creative solutions. Now, how does creativity work? How does creativity work? We have various creativity skills. First is making connection with ideas from all over. When you are creative, you find that connections between different ideas are used to solve problems. Often these connections happen when you aren't actively thinking about the problem or task. Something you read or something someone says connects with the problem and you see it in a new way. Being in a different environment also helps in experiencing something for the first time. So, creative connections help you to view tasks in a different manner. The second creativity skill is when you ask questions. When you ask questions, you challenge accepted or conventional wisdom. You wonder that why a task was done in a particular way or why it should not be done in this way. So when you find the reason for for this, you will find that it may be valid, it may not be valid in this relevant situation. But everyone is used to doing it the task that way. This allows you to look for better ways to do the task and revise the procedure to make them more relevant. The third point about creativity skills is making observations. You can discover fresh ways of doing things by observing the world around you, watching things happening around you, how people work, how you get inspired to think into ways to help them to become more efficient. The way someone approaches a task might give ideas to help someone do the task better. Paying close attention on how people use products or services can help them to see how well they function, and then you devise ways to improve them. Networking with people and groups. See, creativity skills depend on how you network and with what kind of people you network. If you network with people with diverse ideas, with greater experience, who with diverse thinking, you will be able to uh, get more information about the creativity skills. And the last point about of developing creativity skill is experimenting, because when you try out something new or differently, when you test what what you want to do and see whether it works, you develop that creativity skill of being able to adjust, rework on a problem, or rethinking your ideas until you find a solution. So these are the basic creativity skills that one need to be familiar with: making connections, asking questions, making observations, networking, and experimenting. Now, how do we learn how to think out of the box? What are the challenges? First of all, let us look at the circle challenge. What is the circle challenge? You draw 20 circle on a piece of paper. and use a stopwatch for 30 seconds. In each circle, in 30 seconds, you draw a picture. And like that, you repeat for all the 20 circles. You do different pictures. It helps you to think differently in, in different contexts. So this kind of exercise, when you do once, you can repeat after a, a short period of time. And in this way, you will be training yourself to think out of the box. Then, as students, we have always been active in listening to teachers. How do we make our listening more effective? By using a sketchpad. Sketchpad means you are listening, try to make a picture out of that. Creative drawing. See, a picture tells a picture, they say it talks about 1,000 words. So whenever you are listening to something, try to give shape to what you are listening in the form of a picture. So use a sketch pad, use a kind of a drawing. It helps you to recapitulate things in much easier. Then, very important that you should read regularly. All the time. Reading is very, very important because it keeps you in touch with creativity. When you read, you always get new ideas, storylines, puzzles, characters, complex world situations. So all these things, they stimulate your mind to think better. Then the fourth point is write. Writing always helps you to put your ideas together. When you read, you grasp ideas, you formulate ideas, and when you write, you actually express these ideas in the form of words. Picture, writing, and all these things, they help to stimulate your creativity. And the next is, you must do physical exercise. See, when we say exercise, see, physical exercise is must. Take care of your physical and mental well-being. Today's context, in today's context, you find that students are hooked to the internet, to mobile phones, and to, it's very important to go and play a game of football or cricket or hockey, where you run around and you exercise, go and do some kind of gym, swimming. Any of these exercises that you do, it helps you to stimulate your thinking. It helps you to gain concentration of the mind, and therefore you will be able to become more and more creative in the process. At the workspace, how do you develop creativity? Choose diversity. What does it mean? When you are given a choice of team, go and choose people who think differently. In my case, when I took the example of going, I went to from Bits Pilani, I went to Goa. I was not knowing anything about oceanography. I didn't know whether the subject would interest me, but I chose to go there because I knew that I would learn something new. So every time you read a book or you do anything, you choose something, which is diverse, which is different from what you know. So that increases your span of learning. Choose your process, change your process, make your you change the way you normally do things. Try to do it in a different way, so that you get that experience. This is a part of the concept of experimentation. Change your process, change the way you are going to do the work, and you will find that your creativity will flower. Then draw your work. Whatever work you are doing, if you sketch it properly, if you try to form a picture, a mental picture, and try to put it on paper. It really boosts your level of creativity at the workplace. Then change your environment. Changing the space around you can streamline you to think in fresh ways about your work. This might involve recognizing your office space, reorganizing your office space, or even moving to a different office. So every time you move to a different place, you will find new ideas are coming into your mind. And most important thing, listen to music. Believe me, it stimulates your creativity many folds. So how do we, having learned all the basic things about creativity, how do we exercise our body and mind to become more and more creativity? The whole process of the mind is that it should work. It works best when it is not having to do any effort. Effortlessness is the key word. The mind, when it is at peace, when it is silent, the silent mind is the most creative mind. When it is just, you close your eyes and you find that a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts start coming your way. By putting an effort, you cannot remember. You notice this thing happening, when you have to face an exam and you are cramming all through the night, preparing for the exam. And when you land into the examination hall, you find that your mind has become absolutely blank, and there is nothing that you have crammed you are able to remember. So learning is a process in which you need to spend time. Be regular in your class, be regular in doing your homework, be all the time engaged in activity, and don't leave your learning to the last minute, because in the last hour or in the last minute or the last day, you should keep your mind at rest so that it memory will be sharpened. So creativity, intelligence, memory happen effortlessly, and it is very important. I The other thing which I have not mentioned here in the slide is, the mind and the body. What is it that connects the mind and the body? It's the breath. When I wanted you to chant Om, the first thing that I told you is to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and breathe out. And then in the next, chant Om. So, what happens? When your breath is regulated, you find that your mind becomes more and more focused. Your mind actually becomes empty. Your mind becomes absolutely hollow. With the body, it's just the opposite. The body needs exercise. That is why physical exercise is very, very important. It needs exercise, it needs effort to build muscles, to strengthen it. And yoga can make the body more flexible and agile. So, these are some of the things which we can practice to make our mind more and more creative. Now, I've taken this example of handling failure. You see, when you are creative and when you chart a new path, you sometimes may have to handle failure, because it's not always that you are going to be successful in everything that you do. So, how do we handle failure? Now, this is one blog that I wrote, and on learning from, sorry, this is not from, but from the visionary Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And See, the key word to this is you type my name in Google and you type handling failure, and it will bring you to this article. We all know that Dr. Abdul Kalam was the former president of India, and he died a few years ago. And we all have a very, very high regard for him, a very high respect for him, primarily because he was a man of principles. He was a man who came up from a very, very poor background, and when he knew that he was poor, he could realize that what is it to be poor and how he could help the poor people. So the key word when you go to this blog is handling failure, and you type my name. And see, Abdul Kalam was handling many, many projects. He had worked with the Department of Science and Technology, and he was asked to head the Indian Space Research Organization. And in 1978, 1979, the ISRO was involved under his leadership with the satellite program. So when the first satellite was launched, within 560 kilometers, it just collapsed and it fell in the ocean. And imagine, the crores of rupees that the country had spent on that satellite all went down the drain. Can you imagine the state of mind of a person like Dr. Abdul Kalam when he faced such a situation? So this is all what I have tried to explain, that how did he handle this failure. He didn't become dejected. Yes, momentarily, yes, but not for a long while, because he got over this dejection, and 2 days later he went back to the organization, put his team together, and says, let's start working all over again. So thinking out of the box does not always lead to success. One needs to be prepared to overcome frustration, disappointments due to failure, and one needs to be prepared to handle it. So creativity is not always going to give you result. When you are going to chart a different path altogether, it is going to be difficult, but you have to be firm and resolute in your decision. There are two creative organizations which you all know of: Amazon and Google. They are massive global organizations, and I will just briefly tell you about it. Amazon was founded by Jeff Bezos in 1994 as an e-commerce venture. At that time, nobody knew what was e-commerce. The internet had come, Wi-Fi was available, and but nobody knew how to market things through a website. And it was Amazon which came forward with this idea, and it developed improved customer experience. Amazon actually started with only marketing books, and later on it took on to DVDs, electronic products, groceries, and healthcare products. And today, almost the entire world you can buy through Amazon. And Jeff Bezos says that he wants to market aeroplanes through Amazon. So when you want to place an order for, if the company want to place an order for an aeroplane, they should place it through Amazon. Well, this is, thinking which is beyond our comprehension, but maybe one day this may happen. The other organization that we are talking about is Google. We all know that Google started as a search engine, but when you give a free service to anybody, can the organization survive? Google was tailored to meet the requirements of its customers. It moved from business to customer, that is the search engine, to business. So today, Google is a big online advertising platform. And all the advertising, most of the advertising, 80% of the advertising, online advertising that is happening through Google. And that is where Google generates its income. Amazon is the biggest customer of Google. So, ladies and gentlemen, creativity is a big thing, but at the same time, it's not that you cannot be creative. You can change the world through your creativity and out of the box thinking by venturing out beyond the boundaries. What are the major concerns that are faced by the world? 49% of the people who matter, they voted for climate change, destruction of nature, natural resources depletion, ecological imbalance, global warming. If you would have seen the news during the last few months, you know that almost all across the world there have been earthquakes, there have been floods, there have been all kinds of what we call label them as natural disasters. But are they really natural disasters? Have they actually happened naturally because, or have they happened because of human intervention? Somewhere we as a population, as humans, we are committing some kind of mistake in harnessing or utilizing our natural resources. Then the second major problem is large scale conflict, wars. You see that China is already there in the South China Sea. Everywhere you find that there are tensions which are created. You know that till recently China was on our Himalayan borders, and we were almost fighting a war-like situation to defend the integrity of this country and the borders. So defense concerns, threats, both external and internal, are a major concern which almost every country is facing. Then inequality of income and resource distribution. 31% of the people vote for this. Is a third major uh, biggest concern. Poverty. 29% of the people vote that poverty is a major concern. Today, when we are well placed and we can afford to come to institutions like the Gita Ratan International School of Business, we must think about the poor who cannot even afford 2 meals a day. So, all of you people in management institutes have a big responsibility. These are the major concerns which are faced by the world. But as management students, when you graduate out of the institution, you are on the verge of delivering excellence to institutions, to organizations, and through that only you can solve the problems of the world. The most important thing is that you must all have the confidence in yourself. You are all amazing because every person that is created by God, by the Creator, by the super consciousness is unique. And there is no one who is like you in this entire world. And so is the universe, of whom you are an infinitely small but a very significant part. So take this small step, start where you are, use what you have, your skills, your resources, do what you can, and you can make miracles happen. Miracles are not that something will happen because God wants them. Miracles will happen because you want miracles to happen. You have to have that sankalp for the miracles to happen, and they are going to happen. They are bound to happen. All that you need is a little bit of a creative edge to handle problems and situations and go out into the world and go and develop your profession, develop your career in organizations that are waiting to take you in, because you are unique. There is nobody like you. At the end, I would like to thank all of you, to the students of the Gita Ratan International Business School, for listening so patiently. And I'm sure that today all of you pledge to keep your creativity at peak levels. Not only now, but always, uh, throughout your life, because nothing less than creativity is going to help you to deliver what you want to deliver to the world. I also wish to thank Team GIBS uh, for coordinating. Miss
Thank you so much, sir.
Rajesh, Swati, all of you have been a wonderful team. You have been coordinating with me for the past several days, and I find that all of you are excellent in whatever you do. And I wish to thank the management, the Vice Chancellor, the Director, the Dean, all of you, sir, for being and sparing your time in this presentation of mine, the faculty and the staff of the GIBS. Thank you very much. And with this, I
Questions, Lila?
Thank you so much, sir. It was such an enriching and motivating session for us and for our students. And there are some questions that the students are asking. So the first question is by Weber. How to pen paper out innovative thoughts so that the exact idea should be understand and implemented. Is there any format?
well, can I get the question again? I was not.
Okay, okay. So
Can I get the picture so that I can see myself?
the
My-
question?
No, the screen. Can we? I've closed the PowerPoint. No.
Yes, sir. You
Yes,
have
sir.
to. एक minute.
Am I sharing the screen? I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah, you have to stop sharing the screen, sir. Just go to that caption again.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, here you are.
Yes, sir.
Please ask the question.
Yes, sir. So this first question is by Weber. He's asking how to pen paper out innovative thoughts so that the exact idea should be understood and implemented. Is there any format?
No, there is no exactly format. Again, this is something where you use your creativity. Look at the best possible way that you can do it. What appeals to your mind? How it helps you to memorize what you want to memorize, and you will be able to do it. There is no format as such. In fact, the whole idea of creativity is to work without a format.
Yes, sir.
Right. Great. Sir.
Yes, sir. There's another question which is asked by Kanza. She's asking, thinking and doing research in your era was quite difficult as lack of resources. So what changes you find and compare with the current environment?
Yeah, see, today you want to read a book. Suppose you want to refer to something, you always go to Google search and you find all the references which are there. In those days, None of these things were available. So you read papers and you see the list of references at the end of papers, and then from those references you go and try to read all those things, and through that process now everything comes to you on your desk, on your laptop, on your mobile, on your iPad, on your tablet. So things are much easier. But at the same time, the expectations of organizations are is also like that you will do things much faster. The research
Mm,
project I did, which took
mm.
6 months, perhaps today you can do it in 1 month time, because
Yeah.
the resources are already available to you. So
Right.
so time is a big thing. As I told you during the course of my discussion, that every day 140 papers on different aspects of COVID are being published across the world today. Per day,
Mm,
140 papers.
right.
We have never seen unprecedented publication that could ever happen. The world is interconnected. We are in one global world, one
Right.
global village, and you can talk, to researchers sitting in the US. So things are much easier, but at the
Mhm.
same time there are also threats, because people are also spying, people are also having uh, malwares to try to steal what you have on your computer. So those kinds of protective things you must have in your system, like
Mhm.
antivirus programs or firewalls, so that they will protect your work.
Right.
Correct, sir. There is another question which is asked by Shubhangi.
Okay.
According to you, does thinking differently creates difference in organization working culture, or the theoretical and standard norms of working culture in an organization creates long-term changes?
See, working culture, every organization that they have created, they would like to keep that. People don't expect that suddenly you will go to that institution and you will change the work culture. Working, within the organizational culture itself, there are a lot of ways in which you can apply your creative knowledge, your creative edge, and work. Now, the NDDB, the National Dairy Development Board that I work for, it had a totally different working culture than the CSIR institutions that I have worked for. So, work culture is one thing which every organization has created over a period of time, and they don't want that to be changed. But within the work culture, there are a lot of opportunities for you to apply your creative edge, your creativity.
Correct, sir. Correct. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for us and giving this enriching session, motivating session. And I thank you from the entire GIFTS family. And now, with this, we are coming to the end of this PD workshop. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's exactly 19 hours now, 7 o'clock, the
Okay.
scheduled time.
Yes,
So
sir.
I know that I have not overshot the time limit, and I know that people in Delhi
Right.
would have to go back home.
Yes.
So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I once again thank the management, the students, and all of you for taking so much pains in organizing this program. I'm sure that
It's our pleasure, sir.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hmm.